Hello everybody, this is Zelda.
Ciao a tutti. How's everybody doing? Well? Good to see you all again.
Do we still have people coming in, Melanie?
Yeah. Just a few.
Oh my God, Matt Aversa's here. Hi, Matt.
How are we looking, Melanie?
I think everyone is here.
All right, we'll give it another 10 seconds or so. Yes, Matt, it's a party.
Matt, you better not text me anything inappropriate. I'm about to share my screen.
All right, well, I guess in the interest of maximizing our hour, we'll just jump right in and start. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second Zoom session. And we're super glad to have you as a part of this Zintern program. Today we have Jen DeMarchi, who's my co-founder of Czars. She's giving a wave. And Sally Fisher, who is president of a boutique agency, Sally Fisher PR. And our great kind of guest lecturer for the day is Izzy Hecht, who is the ultimate Cision master list builder. She has had many an internship and a couple jobs along the way that have gotten her where she is, and she is going to take us into the world of Cision, and we'll kind of go from there into other list programs and LinkedIn. We really want this to be interactive. So there is a chat button, and we'd love for you, if you have questions along the way, to just jump in and write them out. And we'll get to them, or throw your hand up, and in the screen time, we'll try to shout out at you. But Izzy, let's jump in and really welcome everyone. Thank you.
Awesome. Hi, guys. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we're going to chat media lists because they are probably the most important thing. They are the basis for all of the work that you're going to do externally. So the first thing I wanted to cover was just kind of how to know what outlets and editors to include. So of course, you want to think about the outlet scope. Is it national? Is it regional? Just figuring out exactly who you're trying to target. The lead time. So if you're aiming for quick coverage, you want short lead. If you're aiming for print coverage, you probably need about 3 months in advance. So just keeping that in mind as well. If you're really looking to turn something around fast, just keeping lead time in mind as you build your list. Categories, so depending on what you are pitching, who is writing about what, and past coverage. So there are certain editors that always cover things in certain articles. So like, are they Sunday Styles writers? Are they, the skincare section of the New York Times always? So keeping that in mind, just what they have covered in the past. Then contact sourcing, how you're going to find these people, which is what we're about to deep dive into. So of course, you can go on the publications websites and find emails there and contacts there sometimes. Cision, which is probably the most important thing that you will learn right now. And that has almost everyone that you will need to contact in terms of media contacts. There's also Muck Rack, which is great, especially for freelancers, because sometimes Cision does not have newer freelancers. And then some agencies that I have experienced work with Rocket Reach and Contact Out, which are less expensive resources to find contacts. And then, of course, if you really are struggling, you can go into stalker mode and find some emails on social media of freelancers, because they will often have it in their bios. All right, can we dive into Cision? Are we good? Okay, I got nothing, so I'm gonna go in. So Cision.
Izzy, the one
Yeah.
thing I think it's terrific is that I think all these kids need to understand that, you know, you're building a media list because you've got a specific project. So if your project is, let's say, you brought up the style section, which was a great point. My project is to promote a fashion show that's about to happen in New York, and you want to promote it. So what do? You need to create a list of editors to invite, right? So you're going to go to your Cision and you're going to put in style editors or fashion editors. Go for it.
All right. So most agencies have Cision. It's going to be your best friend, like I said before. So we'll start with if you know exactly who you're looking for or what section you're looking for. So if you saw an article and you want to pitch that specific editor, you would just type in Cision, of course, entering your login information and search the contact's name. And that's easy, and that's best case scenario most of the time. But a lot of the times you don't know exactly who you're trying to pitch, but you know what publications or what criteria you have. So if you want to search by a specific guideline, once you're in, you click influencers on the new Cision platform, and then it'll show up as seen here, where it's like search media contacts or search by outlet. And then on the left-hand side of the search, you can check off any filter that you want to apply. So this would be the criteria by which you would search. So you can see there's a ton of different criteria over here that you can search by. So by contact, specifics, by outlet, by audience, you name it. So I'll just go through them real quick. So if you're going to search by contact, you can search by where they live. So this is really good, especially if you're, number one, targeting regional outlets, but number two, if you're doing any sort of event and you need to invite media, to be able to figure out where these media live or work is super helpful in building those lists. And then also you can search often, especially on Muck Rack, you can search by beat. So, you know, on Cision, same thing, it's just not called beat. You can search by keyword or subject and type in, you know, beauty, or look a certain category of things that this person needs to write about. So you can do that on the side with that filter. And then the next thing is you can search by outlet details. So location is a really good one too. So if you're targeting regional, I just did Miami as a sample. So I just did outlet location and then clicked off Miami or Miami Beach. And this is what it would look like. And then you can click through all the sides and it'll tell you if it's a blog or a trade publication or things of that nature. And you can click through them. You can see how often they're published, what type of outlet they are, what they cover. And you can add contacts from there. If you click view outlet, then view contact. The next is target area. So where the outlet reaches the most people, then you can search, of course, by keyword, by subject, and I just put another photo. So if you were to search by subject, I did beauty for this one, and you were to search by contact, not by outlet, this is what it would look like. It would pull up, you know, a bunch of beauty editors that are within that category, and you can go through these people's contact information. It'll show their email, their phone, what they write about, And then say you were to build a list within Cision, you can click add to lists and then either create a new list and, you know, check them off and have it put there, or you can copy and paste this information into whatever media list you're working off of. I will say that from my experience, most of the time the list that you pull from Cision is probably not in the format that you're going to want the list for agency use. So even if I pull a list,
CSV document, right?
yeah. So when you export your list from Cision, which I'll get to shortly, it often has it by last name, comma, first name. And I have never been advised to keep my list that way in all of my internships or anything of that nature. So I'll show you more so like what I usually get asked to do, which would be something more along the line of outlet, first name, last name, title, email, and then sometimes we'll have additional owner if you have multiple people working off the same list, so you're not double pitching.
Hey,
Date,
Izzy,
and
there
then
have been,
yeah.
there have been some questions in the group chat about like what's a beat, which Sally answered in the text.
Yep.
But can you show on Cision kind of the areas that, like, if someone has a sports internship, if someone has a beauty internship, if someone has a fashion internship, how they go about?
So if you go back to here, so when you're going to search contacts or outlets, so it works by either. See this filter on the left when you first get to Cision and go to the search. You can put in outlet subject or contact subject.
Or job role.
And then you would type in sports or beauty or whatever you're trying to find. So that would probably be your best bet in that sense. I know for Muck Rack, it literally says beats on the side and you can start typing and it'll fill it in for you. So like if you type S, you can click sports and then apply that filter. But for Cision, you would have to select one of these filters on the side. Did that answer it?
I think so.
Good.
And then somebody else asked another question. I think it was the question about, is there a way to get officially certified in any of these platforms, or is it more learned by experience?
I am not sure if there's a way to get officially Cision certified.
I think that Cision has to, in other words, if you're an official press person, it's, so there are people that say, I don't want to be on Cision. You're going to look for somebody one day who's a very important person, and she or he's not going to be listed, and you're going to say, hey, what the heck? And the reason is because they actually request to not be on Cision because they don't want somebody to find them and bother them. But
and that's when you use Muck Rack or Contact Out or Rocket Reach or any of those other free Clearbit. There's a bunch of like Google widgets that you can install to find people's contact information, and they're less money than Cision, and that's when you would employ those.
Muck Rack does that too. They'll delist people, or they just won't give you their contact information at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing is that if you want to be on Cision, you just need to give your contact. So there are a lot of freelancers and influencers that are on Cision, and that's because they've been given to them by those people. So yeah, yes, I don't know what that method is, but yes, you can be if you want to be. And then somebody's asking what the difference is between Meltwater and Cision and Muck Rack.
Oh, so I actually have used Meltwater before. I would say Meltwater is more for monitoring, and Cision you can use for monitoring, but Meltwater I don't believe has like the expansive list of contacts that you can search the way that Cision does. In my experience, I used Meltwater to build a weekly like tracking report that I would send over to a client, but I never sourced contacts from Meltwater.
When you say monitoring, you mean gathering all the clips that you garnered for your client?
So it would pull, it wouldn't like, of course it wouldn't clip them for me, but it would pull the links and titles and editors and the UVPMs, so how many people are viewing that per month, for me into a newsletter format for me to send to the client. That was my experience with Meltwater. I'm not sure if there's new features since I've used it last, but definitely Cision is way better for sourcing contacts. Okay. Were there any other questions? Sorry, it's hard. I can't see the chat when I share my screen.
We've covered them at the moment. Thanks so much.
Cool. No problem. Yeah, so then there's other ways that you can decide how to search for people with the filters, like reach of the platform. And then you can also search by audience insights, which I guess is another thing that, you know, can be taken into consideration. I personally don't think that I have ever used that. I focus more on who's covering what. And then, so this is how to actually build a list within Cision, this third point. You would check off all the contacts because you can select them on the side. Like once you go here, I'm not sure if you see that box right there, you can select it and then click add to lists in Cision, and then add it to within your Cision list. Then when you go up here, you can view your list that you have, and then you can export that. And when you export it, it will be in a specific format. Like I said before, it usually is last name, comma, first name, and then any information that they have in Cision. So phone numbers will be on there. Most of the time they're for the publication, unless it's a freelancer. So a lot of them will have the same phone numbers. But yeah, so any of their information will be on the Cision list.
Also, it keeps it as its own type of Excel, so you need to change it and save it as an Excel spreadsheet. Otherwise, you email it out, it won't be openable.
Yeah. And another note is, just like I said before, like most of the time you won't be keeping what Cision has, like for your own personal media lists. So make sure that you reformat them in the way that whoever is in charge of you is asking you to, and don't rely solely on the Cision list that you pull, because if you just search by beat and then select all the contacts on there, so say you're looking for a beauty contact, you just select all the people that come up when you search for beauty contacts and then pull that list of like thousands of people. A lot of them are going to be bloggers. A lot of them might not, you know, be who exactly you're looking for. So don't rely solely on your Cision list to be, you know, accurate and perfect. I would still vet every single person on there. And then my other notes were just about Muckrack, which I think I covered before. It's generally, you can do the same things as Cision. It's a little bit more user-friendly, in my opinion. More freelancers are on there. But that's really the main difference from my experience. And then general tips just for pulling contacts and building these lists. You want to pull contacts that are actually writing stories. So when I first was an intern and they would have me pull lists, I would pull like every contact I could find. But in reality, only a couple of those are going to be useful to you. So, you know, you don't want to be pitching the editor-in-chief about a product most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. Like if it's a big publication like Harper's Bazaar, like you're not going to pitch the editor-in-chief about your lipstick. You're going to pitch a beauty editor or an associate beauty editor or even the beauty director before you would go to the editor-in-chief. So they're probably not the best person to have on your list.
I wouldn't go to the beauty director either.
What? Yeah. If you're an intern or like, you know, a junior level person, you probably aren't even pitching the director. So just keeping that in mind, that the contacts on your list should be contacts that are useful. You want people that are actually writing stories if you're pitching for the purpose of placements. And then, like I said before, every agency has a different way of creating lists. So just make sure that you're not just selecting every single contact that Cision has or Muckrack has and pulling that, because, you know, it's better to have things that are useful to you and not overwhelm yourself. So those are my notes. Any questions?
Incredibly helpful. I hope, Izzy, that, you know, what everybody, the takeaway that everybody brings from your presentation is that the reason why you've dedicated the time to share Cision with them is the message that David started with in session 1 on Monday, which is that a lot of PR is really about your lists and who you reach out to, because our goal is to reach the public in PR. And the only ways that we can do it are the ways that we've learned to do it, which are, you know, being able to reach out to editors at magazines, influencers, print, broadcast, and Cision is a main way to do this. I will certainly remind or tell all of you that something that Izzy brought up, which is totally fundamental, is that many agencies have Cision, but many don't. And the reason is because Cision is extremely expensive. I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, I think it's about $6,000 a year now, which for a small agency is a lot of money. I think it's even more, Jen.
Yeah, I think it's up there.
Yeah, but
I think it's about 50. I don't
know.
Yeah, I thought it was like closer to like $5,000 a month. Like, I didn't think it was per year.
I think
No, no, there are different, by the way, there are different accounts that one can have. Right. So there are, if you include all of the sort of bells and whistles, it gets way up there. But the minimum that you can spend is $6,000 annually, and it may be $7,000 now. But you know, it's, and I'm going to also say that in COVID, in times of COVID, you know, I wouldn't start out with Cision because they're not updating them. You know, who knows who's there and who's not there.
Yeah. I would say Muckrack, it'll actually show you the job changes. If someone recently changed jobs, it'll say job change.
Right.
And it's very, very accurate compared to Cision, especially right now with everyone transitioning.
Right. Good point. And I think that something that I would really, really stress with all of you, and this is something that hopefully you've been doing since, you know, high school, is that you each have a LinkedIn account with an updated CV on there, which reflects who you are and what you're doing, because LinkedIn is a great way. I'm sure that many PR agencies have the premium accounts, and the premium account allows you to get the person's email. So if you're networking with editors or influencers or anybody that you want to reach, you can, once they've connected with you, also have their email address and be able to download lists from there. And I think that familiarizing yourself with these people and their bios and knowing who they are and letting them see that you've connected with them is a better way for them to know that you're interested, and then they're going to be familiar with your name when you send them a pitch.
And by the way, just to interject a second, LinkedIn is very, very heavy.
I'm missing some of your message, Jen.
I was just going to say that LinkedIn is very heavily by John. John, audio. John, get off the audio.
I'm off.
Izzy, what is she saying?
I'm off.
She's
Not
saying
you.
that LinkedIn is heavily used
Not
by
you.
job recruiters.
Yeah,
Yes.
good point.
Good point.
Excellent point. And you know, that's if you place that you're looking for a job in your description, even better, even the next. And I think that the other thing is that, so let's say you've been assigned a project and you have to build a list and you don't have Cision, and you may have Muckrack or Meltwater or the other things, but let's say you don't. Let's say you're just on your own and you want to prove to yourself that you can figure something out. Izzy brought up that looking at Instagram, so a lot of the influencers let you message them, and a lot of them provide their email addresses right there. So you can build a list. Say you're working on a festival in Miami, a food festival. You want to get the top influencers that cover food festivals. It's pretty easy through hashtags to find them through food or whatever it is, and then email them and invite them to what you're doing.
You
Yep.
also can use something like a For or a Hyper that works with influencers to, source them and kind of deal them out to people. So my agency that I currently work for has For. We used to have Hyper, but basically you can search whatever hashtag or whatever, number of followers and location you're looking for, and it'll show you all the influencers in their database that have, that align with those, and then it has their contact information, so you can contact them or
Fantastic
like that.
advice.
Yeah.
Fantastic advice. And then, finally, Googling people is a great way to go about it, because let's say you've created a decision list and you've got 20 great people on it. You're going to want to Google them and go back and look at the stories they've written. Because if one comes up that they've written a story that's pretty similar to the one you're talking about pitching, there's a way in. I read your story. I thought it was really, fundamental to what I'm doing, and I thought you might be interested in this as well as a next step. You need to be educated about what you're pitching about, and Googling different writers is a great way to do that.
Definitely. I see there's some questions. So someone asked about the Google widgets for contacts. So like I said, there's Rocket Reach. Your agency also would have to pay for Rocket Reach, but once you have it, once you install it, you can use it to find contacts by plugging someone's LinkedIn in, which is super helpful for those people that aren't on Cision, hide their email on Muckrack, don't have their email in their Instagram bio or on the website of the publication. Rocket Reach, I would highly recommend if you have any say in what your agency is using. But yeah, you can literally take the link of someone's LinkedIn profile and it will give you their best personal and their best professional emails. And then the other Google widgets, there's some free ones. So when I was an intern and we would run out of free trials of Rocket Reach, we would use free trials of Clearbit, Contact Out, and things of that nature. There's a bunch working with. And those can be used to find people's emails as well with LinkedIn. And then the other question was For and Hyper. So For is FOHR. It's spelled weird, I'll type it out. And then Hyper is HYPR. And those are both things that agencies would have to sign up for. So individual people, unless you're a freelancer, you probably can't sign up for that. Just due to how expensive they are, and they give you plans, like business plans, but those are more for influencers. They're not for editors. And that's just for sourcing influencers if you're going to have any sort of event or do any sort of, mailing, gifting, or paid partnership. So.
Any more questions? Do we have any in the chat?
Somebody said, is Cision useful for every kind of industry? Yes, there is nothing that Cision is not useful for in terms of industry. There are, so I'll give you an example of something I had to do. I had a specific kind of music I was working on with Roseanne Cash, who is a country western singer. And, Cision can be great at, a particular kind of music. If you get very specific, sometimes the lists are few and far between, but you can definitely find a way to figure out on Cision, a particular segment of a segment of a segment. The more you break it down, the more difficult it is. And there is not a subject matter that Cision doesn't have if newspapers have somebody that covers that beat. So in other words, if there's nobody covering something you're working on, then they wouldn't have it. That's the thing to understand. Cision is reflecting the news outlets. I think the other thing, Izzy, that you brought up that was interesting is your coverage reports. So the Cisions and the all of the different programs that you can have to put your charts together, because you know a lot of people give these very fancy reports of stats and UVMs and people who have covered and what does it mean. I don't know if any of you have heard of an email provider called Zoho, but we have Zoho, and Zoho makes those lists and provides you with those reports all in one with charts and who's looked at it, and you can download the lists. It's quite something. You might look into Zoho. Have you ever run across Zoho, Izzy? Right.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very impressive, the kinds of things that they produce. So it's interesting as you're cultivating and looking and researching. Sometimes as interns, you can also be researching beneficial ways for your companies to move forward and taking back to them that they should have 4 or, you know, any of the things Izzy has recommended can be beneficial.
And I think kind of using a word that Sally just said about like cultivating, I mean, I think your biggest goal in all of this is for your own personal growth to develop, and Sally can speak to it and I can speak to it, and I spoke to it on the first call, but the best thing you can do as a publicist is to have great media relationships. It's not just, you know, about sending beauty pitches and not really knowing who's on the other side. It's figure out who the person is. We said that, like Cision might say they're a beauty writer, but maybe they write about old, like hair care for older people, for people over 65, whatever it may be. But what you really want is if you can find a way to develop friendships with media so that it's not just about like sending a quick pitch. It's you can just pick up the phone or shoot a text or find a way to wine and dine them when the world opens up again. Or maybe you also represent a new fitness class, and maybe you can invite this beauty editor that you just sent a pitch to that maybe you did a quick Google on LinkedIn and saw they graduated this from the same college as you. Like make connections and find ways to become friends with the media. Like it will make your job so much easier. Like wine and dine them, find exercise classes. I mean, this is all speaking when, you know, there's some semblance of normal again.
It can be really intimidating to do that when you're like a junior level person because you're not familiar with it.
But in the bigger picture, I think.
Yeah, no, but like it's so worth it. I will say, like from my own experience, you know, I've only been full-time working in PR for a little over a year. And I was so intimidated by the thought of picking up the phone and talking to an editor, intimidated by going to dinner with an editor or going to a fitness class. But, you know, once you just do it the first time, then it becomes really easy. But you also can find a way to kind of incorporate other clients into the conversation as well, or, you know, talk about other stories in the pipeline that you weren't even thinking about before. So definitely take that very seriously, what she said about like finding a way to wine and dine them, because it does work.
You're saying, Izzy, that, you know, you've been working in PR for a year, but before getting to the position that you're in now, you worked as an intern for
4 internships. Yeah.
Right. So you really learned as an intern the ropes and how to pitch and how not to pitch and what to do and what not to do. And I'm sure that after 25 years, I'm still learning, you know, because the rules change. They change. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I just want to say also to stress, because we talked about this on Monday, and I know it's a whole new crew here, how important it is that you be well read, that you are reading newspapers wherever you are. You should be reading the Wall Street Journal if you can get your hands on one every single day. You should be on BuzzFeed. You have to know what's going on in the world in order to shape the news. So I don't know if you guys, and anybody reads the papers anymore. I wonder.
They can, the Wall Street Journal, luckily, in all the Times and the Miami Herald or wherever you are, you can get an online version, and they're, you know, a quarter fraction of the price, which, you know, at this point I'm practically reading everything online. I don't get it.
Wall Street Journal is actually quite expensive. Is still expensive. It's like, I think it's $60 a month I pay.
But also whatever agencies that you're interning for or working for most likely have subscriptions to a lot of the major publications if they have a paywall or a fee of any kind. And like, I'm sure asking for that user and password so that you can be well read and like know what's going on, like any boss would be like, totally take it, you know? So definitely ask if you're not sure. Worth it.
Yeah. Are there any other questions that anybody has about media lists, pitching, what they're used for, beats, what people are covering? I think it's an interesting subject, and I want to make sure that everybody sort of got why we thought this was an important forum to address.
And if anyone wants what I was showing on the screen, just let me know, and you know, I can email it out or put it in Czars or something.
Is there a way to post it?
What? Sorry.
Are we losing Jen?
Yeah, she's.
Okay, so the one exciting thing that I said before that I want to encourage people to join is we are in the process of launching a group called Rising Czars. It's risingczars.com. I'm going to post the invitation to join in the group chat. We got a lot of people asking to join from Monday's session, but it's basically going to be, it's a networking group for young and interested interns and young PR professionals and even media professionals to connect and network and just kind of, we're going to be sharing news and info we think you would like. Down the line, we'll be going to have kind of similar programming to this and events. And it's like we said on the first call, you know, just really networking and building your network. And who knows where all of you all are on this call are going to be in 5 years and 3 years and 10 years. And this will be a really go-to place for you to all connect. And down the line, we'll have events, and it should be a great place and launch pad for you all. So I'm going to put the link to join in, and definitely request to join.
Oh yeah, and Monday we're doing, this Monday at 3 o'clock, our next session is all about beauty. So if you have any interest in doing beauty PR, beauty media, please sign up to join that one. That's with Lauren Contori, who is a czar and owns her own agency in New York. And Megan O'Brien, who's based out of Los Angeles, who's a publicist and also a writer and very influential. So.
And then on Wednesday, entertainment PR. So next week is beauty and then followed by entertainment. So
yeah, Wednesday is going to be huge because Wednesday is Rob Shooter, who used to be a publicist, who's now a gossip writer, and Jill Fritzo, who's one of the biggest entertainment publicists around. So that's going to be really enthralling.
When I worked on Batman, Jill was our person.
Yeah, she's everybody.
Yeah.
She's a legend.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking, Cass, I'm wondering about building relationships with the media. Do you think it's proper to build a relationship with prior to pitching? In the sense, should we talk about them, stories they've written, start a casual conversation with them and just be on their radar? I hope this makes sense. I mean, it's a really good question. You know, I think you know when it's right. I think that it's hard to reach out on a on the level of an intern, but if you're working with a co-worker, if there's a staff and you can make recommendations. I know that I really have appreciated in the past when somebody's come to me and said, hey, did you see this story that Joe wrote, or, you know, Amber wrote, have you seen it in today's paper? I think also something we didn't talk about, which I know we do at our agency, we do a clipping report every day. We send clippings of the day of what's going on in the news that's interesting. And when you do that, names will keep coming up. So entertainment, wine, fashion, they're writers that you'll keep seeing interesting things from that you're gonna wanna get to know. And maybe you could tweet out to them, congrats on that story I saw today. Follow the people on Twitter that you think are good writers. Twitter is really the mainstay for reporters. That's where they are. That's where they're tweeting their stories. So if you're interested in seeing what writers are doing and connecting with them, Twitter's a great place for that. And then on Instagram, you can write them and say, gee, I thought this was a beautiful picture, or I love what you're doing as an influencer. I'd love to work with you someday. Hope that soon. You know, there are ways to build that relationship.
Also, I just want to go back to one thing that Izzy was talking about, which was, say you're working on a pitch for a beauty item, and somebody tells you to go pitch the editor-in-chief of, Vogue. You really shouldn't do that. As you're starting out in your internships, it would be a great time to say if you're working at a PR agency as an intern, it would be a great time to make friends with people, interns at Condé Nast on the editorial side also. So you can make connections. You're not just going to get through to like those people at the top publications. And I know some really lazy bosses will be like, okay, just pitch this out. Or, it would be curious to hear what you guys are actually doing in your internships.
Yeah.
Anybody?
I was asking what's the best way to format a pitch, and that was a good question because it goes right off of what Jen, you were saying, the length and the content and the structure. I think that it's something we talked about on Monday, that being a good writer definitely comes in handy, but I think short and concise is really the way to go because nobody has time to read. Everybody reads in sound bites. If you have 2 paragraphs, chances are they're going to catch what you've said in the first and not in the second. I don't even usually get to the second paragraph of something. So keep your pitches very tight. Always reread them. Inevitably, you're going to have at least 3 typos. Make sure that your grammar is correct because you're going to be constantly criticized for bad grammar. It's a drag, but it's true. And, I would say short is good. And I would always say that, making sure that your content and structure deals with, there's a theme there that you want to pitch, you go back and close it up. It's just like writing an essay in school, only you're keeping it to a paragraph.
Also, something that helps me when I write a lot, because I write a ton of pitches every day. I think something that someone above me once said to me was, okay, but why are they going to write about it now? Tell me why I care about this right now in the first few sentences of the pitch. Because if you're waiting to get to the point till the end of the pitch or the middle of the pitch, if you're boring me in the beginning or you're not sparking my interest from that first few sentences, I'm not reading anymore. So definitely make sure you're getting to why this matters right now in the first part of your pitch.
And I just want to respond to Samantha, who asked about how we all feel about large blind and mass pitching, if that's really effective. No, it is never effective, ever. And unfortunately, especially if you work in an agency, sometimes they'll put you on 7, 8, 10, 15 accounts. And a lot of the times for the lower paying clients, all that pitching gets relegated to the assistants, the interns, or whatever. And it's not thoughtful at all. It's not effective. So, unfortunately, you're going to be forced to do it, but I would recommend not doing it. Just being very thoughtful about researching everybody, finding the right people who are going to be the most effective in getting that client's message out, and really taking the time to know what they write about, what they like, follow them on Twitter, follow them on Instagram, and just be very thoughtful and smart about it. I'm sure Caston has thoughts on that too.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think the more specific you can be, and I think tying what Izzy said, it's like the news cycle is so important, you know, and that's why we go back to reading newspapers and finding the right angle to pitch. And I think, to give you an example, there was a bunch of years ago, I was repping Donald J. Kleiner, the footwear designer. And of course, it was like the client wanted market editors. The client wanted to be in, Lucky magazine at the time, this, that, the other. And around that time, the U.S. volleyball team, women's U.S. volleyball team, wore like Havanas, like regular old flip-flops, to the White House and met the president. And it became headline news that like a great sports team goes to the White House wearing flip-flops. Like, what the hell? So at the time I was friendly with a Wall Street Journal fashion editor. I think it was Cheryl Tan. Anyway, so I had an idea. Well, flip-flops, if they were fancy and bedazzled and covered with like Swarovski diamonds, could be worn to the White House. And so I pitched the Wall Street Journal reporter, like, I know all the news is about how flip-flops shouldn't be worn to the White House, sporty ones, but this fancy Donald J. Kleiner flip-flop kind of breaks all the rules and could be worn to the White House. And sure enough, she loved the pitch, and it was kind of the front page of the Wall Street Journal lifestyle section. And that was taking a truly fashion client and kind of moving the needle in a different way, putting them directly in the news cycle. It wasn't lucky, it wasn't in style. It was, a front page picture on the lifestyle section of the Wall Street Journal.
Every client always wants to be in the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
Everybody. It is the thing that moves the dial in business on every single level. So I just encourage you all to read it as much as you possibly can, because it's just insane.
Yeah.
Influential.
Vanity, you're asking if you have to send a press release soon. Should I write a brief pitch in the email body and then attach the press release for further info? That is how I would do it, but I'm sure everybody has their own personal style. I think that, if worse comes to worse, they're not going to read the press release, maybe. So you want to potentially, in a very brief cover note on your email, give the juice of what you're going to say in your press release so that they get it. And in your subject, to exactly what Izzy was saying, what makes this email pertinent to open up? I mean, and it shouldn't say important for you to read. It should say sending you information about la 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 la, so that it connects it directly to the importance of it, if there is. But everybody's going to have their own style in that case. That would be my style, though.
I'm not a fan of the press release. You guys are going to have to get your mind around it. But I mean, all the clients want it, but I don't think that anybody reads them. I think they just put them on the wire because they just get picked up, by the news media who has nothing else to write about, or just is looking for free content.
Well, she was saying that she has to send out a press release.
Yeah, I would,
that, and I
something really smart and pithy and short, and just attach it, literally. And hopefully the pithy little blurb will be enough to get their interest. But I think that's sort of an antiquated way of things. Curious, what is that press release about right now?
Unmute Vanity.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to disclose at the moment.
Is it non-Kona? Is it non-Kona? Is it about COVID or not? Is it related to COVID?
It's sort of, yeah, and for the community. So there's a good cause to it. But it does revolve around COVID, and So I'll be sending that out in the next few days.
Yeah, I think that, sometimes in the times that we're in, I'm not disagreeing with Jen. We have to all confront the antiquated versions of press releases. But I think that reporters still want to have a written document with all the information concisely put together. And I will always issue a press release because in our litigious society, they just want to see everything concisely, and they want to know that what they're sending out and using is appropriate. So I'm for the press release.
I would say, I know that like I'm less seasoned than everyone else, but from my experience, just with like press releases, clients always ask for them, but they don't understand why they're asking for them a lot of the time. So you'll say that you can do it, but they don't really understand why they need it. They think that it's a necessity and like they just have to do it because that's how it's done. So we try to convince them, maybe you have a product fact sheet about the product or service that is graphically designed and beautiful and short and concise if it's requested. And it's really good to have information in one place, but I don't ever lead with a press release unless there's something like major going on that requires a press release. But most of the time, like we try not to lead with a press release because if you can give the shortened version of the information, most people are receptive to that.
And if they need more information, then you send them the press release. But for the most part, I think it's just antiquated. It's really for financial and business publications and financial and business pitches for the most part. Somebody secured funding or they have a new CEO, blah, blah, blah. It's that sort of thing. But just to have a press release, I don't know. Do people do press kits anymore?
Yeah, films still create press kits and, there are bios and headshots and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm still dealing with press kits. With Netflix, we just had a press kit. Yeah. We've got a film coming out on July 10th and there's a whole press kit.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's totally arbitrary. And I think Izzy's brought up, so many great points. If you're doing a fashion item or a food product or, I represent a gelato brand, we don't really do press releases unless it's information. We do product sheets, we do fact sheets, we do Instagram, we send them sheets where we recommend, with photographs and JPEGs. But if you're doing something that they need concise information, it's helpful to have a one-pager. It just is.
I concur. I agree.
Yeah.
So useful. I wish somebody had this kind of a class for me when I was starting out.
Same.
I want to say thank you to Izzy. You've been fantastic, as always.
Thank you.
Izzy Hecht. And thank you, Sally. Thank you, Cass. Do you guys have any more questions? Anybody want to unmute and ask a question? We've got like 5 minutes.
Will everyone be back on Monday? Hope so. Yeah. Hear about beauty, and then entertainment should be really great.
I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be here every day.
Yay.
Yay! Love you.
Hopefully our group will get bigger.
Yay.
And you know what? Actually, I'm going to. Can I put the Rising link in here now? Is that what I should be doing?
Yeah. People are asking for the Rising.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and thank you, Melanie. Everybody, Melanie is our intern. She's our intern, and she's been running these Zoom calls. So thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. Melanie.
Izzy, can you put the document in the chats?
Let me see. I'm checking out.
Can you email it to Melanie and Melanie send it out to everybody?
Yeah. Why don't we do that? I'll
Yeah.
send it to her. I can't figure it out. I'm sorry. I'm having issues. I've been trying to do it for the last 20 minutes.
Now, what if you can't figure it out, it's not figure outable.
Listen, I never saw somebody share a screen on a Zoom before, but then again, I'm not a Zoom veteran like Sally, so I was impressed.
Oh, that's good.
I'm impressed by Jenna, who already put her LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was going to say that was good.
That's very good, Jenna. Good listening. But I just wanted, Izzy, I don't know how you feel about this, but somebody yesterday, a celebrity, posted on their Instagram that we should all be identifying ourselves now. We should all be putting our pronoun with our bios. And I went back to my Instagram and I did it. I think that, it is our responsibility to start that conversation. So I just, at the end of this, on wherever you're identifying yourself, whenever you're signing off, I think it's great to identify yourself with a pronoun as to how you want to be referred to. Just a point.
Yep.
Okay. I
Very
choose
smart.
art.
Yeah.
I choose Czar.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
I'm gonna wear a crown.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
I put the,
See you on
I
Monday.
put the link in and my email, and hope to see you all back on Monday.
Ciao.
I'm back on Monday. I'm not an intern, but I want to come back.
Come back, Iz.
Come back anytime.
All right.
Love
Bye,
you.
guys. Thanks for listening to me.
You're fantastic.
Bye.
Wow, it's so weird to see people leaving the screen. Melanie, wow, right? That was very impressive.
Yeah, very quick.
Very quick.
Have a good day, and I'll see you on Monday.
Terrific. Thank you again, Melanie. Thanks for being so helpful always. Truly appreciate it. Take care. Ciao, ciao.